Hi, this is Thalia Seggelink with Thinking Moms Revolution, also known as TEX. And today I am really excited to be thinking out loud with Ed and Teri Arranga of Autism One. It is May 2013, and every year around this time I start to get really excited about going to Chicago and catching up with everyone at Autism One. Whether you're interested in things that are happening with special education or biomedical research or new therapies and interventions or even just meeting new practitioners, Autism One is the place to be. It's the world's largest autism conference, and I am really happy to have Ed and Teri on the line. Hi, Arangas. How are you?
Hi, Thalia, how are you?
I'm really well. Teri, hi.
Hi, Tex.
It's good to have you both here thinking out loud with me. So, what is coming up this year, 2013, at Autism One? What can we look forward to?
Well, Thalia, I'm on your Facebook page, which is the Thinking Moms Revolution Facebook page, and I'm noticing some of your pictures that you have in your photo gallery. And one of them says, "Wait, you mean to tell me awareness isn't enough? Take action." And the most effective way to do it is to do it. And that's what Autism One gives you. It gives you tools whereby you can go home and do it and help your child move forward.
Talk a little bit about those tools. What are the different tracks at Autism One? If you're interested in a particular area, what sort of tracks do you have going on?
Well, each year we have biomedical research and treatments, and this year we have a cutting-edge groundbreaking track. We have a body-brain connection track. There's advocacy in action, and a preconception track, ending the epidemic, and of course, education and more good stuff.
Awesome. Ed, what are you excited about this year?
I'm very, very excited to possibly be reaching a critical tipping point. As you might be aware, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is coming, and we also have three congressmen, Congressman Burton, Congressman Weldon, and Congressman Posey attending and presenting. And I think we have the opportunity to demonstrate by our sheer numbers and our intelligence and our passion. Let's face it, these congressmen have never seen these many parents together in one place, all looking for answers, all wanting for Congress to get involved. Congressman Burton actually delivered the first keynote address at Autism One back in 2003 when we had the conference at Loyola University. And I can touch upon that later. Congressman Weldon delivered the second keynote address at 2004. But the numbers back then, the number of people who attended the conference was not nearly as great as it is today. So, excuse me, I'm looking forward tremendously to RFK Jr. and the congressman coming in and seeing this many dedicated, intelligent parents who are all demanding change. I think it's just going to be a wonderful experience.
So you feel like this is a year for some political action to
Correct.
take place. That's awesome. Who else is speaking this year?
And, Ed was talking about intelligent, dedicated parents, and these parents are going to get to come to the conference and hear new research from people like Dr. Skip Kingston, Jeff Bradstreet. Dr. Jeff Bradstreet has information that is going to knock your socks off. Andreas Kalker is coming all the way from Spain. Drs. Krigsman and Walker will present their new research. Drs. Fry and McFabe, Dr. Casanova, much new research this year at the conference.
This is a place to come and find out what's happening on the research front, what new kind of actions parents can take for their kids, and also, as Ed was saying, on the political front, what can we actually do to make a difference for future generations? Ed, or Teri, How have the numbers changed? Ed mentioned that the numbers are a lot different now than they were in 2003. How many people are you seeing coming in this year as opposed to years past, or even the first year?
Well, Talia, I'd like to answer that if I may, and
Yes,
I'm going
please.
to answer it a little bit differently than you asked it. You're talking about numbers. Even recently, when I started this journey, when you and I may have started this journey, Talia, numbers were something like 1 in 166, which was a great rise. I mean, a huge rise. This is definitely not a great, good epidemic, but it was a big rise in autism, and it's a true epidemic, and as everybody knows, you can't have a genetic epidemic. The Mind Institute years ago at UC Davis had ruled out things like demographic shift or diagnostic substitution, with California being the state that did the best reporting and charted cases of full syndrome autism. So we're not talking about people with some idiosyncrasies. We're talking about full syndrome autism. So we know it's a real rise. We know it's really an epidemic. But back when you and I started this journey, Talia, it was like 1 in 166. And now recently the CDC estimated that one child in 88 had autism, 1 in 54 boys. Now we're at 1 in 50, 1 in 31 boys. And if we just want to talk about children's health in general, an estimated, and this study is a little bit back now, an estimated 43% of U.S. children, 32 million, had at least one of 20 chronic health conditions assessed, increasing to 54.1% when you added in things like overweight, obesity, or being at risk for developmental delays. So developmental disabilities also have been reported in approximately 1 in 6 children in the United States in 2006 to 2008, and the number of children with select developmental disabilities like autism, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and other developmental delays has increased, and that requires more health and education services. Finally, fetal deaths from moms receiving the flu shot increased 4,250%,
I think that's great, honey, but
which is
Thalia,
quite a
were you
dramatic
talking about
figure.
the numbers who attend Autism One?
Yes, but I think Teri's making a really good point. The reason
right.
the numbers have grown are because there are more kids who are sick and more people looking for answers.
I believe there's a number of factors at play. When we had the first Autism One conference in 2003, the numbers were about 1 in 250, and we had about 400 attendees. Now we have anywhere between 1,500 and 2,000. And yes, that is a factor of the exploding epidemic and the sheer numbers, but it's also a factor of people are much more conversant on the internet and are looking for answers and so forth. So a few years ago, we had a bunch of local politicians who came. We were trying to initiate change at the local level, which is a difficult thing to do sometimes. And I remember one local state politician came into the conference, and he looked around, and he goes, "Oh, my God, this is big." And when you talk about the numbers as abstractions, it's hard to get your head around it. But when you're in a hall or a ballroom and there's 1,500 parents, all of a sudden it can hit you with a particular force and a particular power that, oh my gosh, we're not talking about abstractions. We're talking about real families with real children who are suffering. And then you can kind of get the idea of the significance of this problem.
Yes, because a lot of these kids, there's so many other things going on with them. It's not just, the social deficit there. There's some serious medical issues that are hurting these children, and a lot of parents out there searching for answers. I, for one, am incredibly grateful for Autism One. You've helped my family tremendously on so many levels, and as you know, Thinking Moms started at Autism One. Just a bunch of parents sitting around talking about what we could do. So I think you guys are impacting the world on levels that you may not even be aware of.
I'd also like to, if I could, just touch on a moment for the difference in the feel of the conference from the early days to now.
Yeah.
It's almost a tidal shift in optimism and hope and education. At the very first conferences, we had what I used to call a wailing wall. And it was a room that we set up where parents would go in and they would tell their story in front of other parents. And it was heartbreaking because there wasn't a dry eye in the house. It was just this outpouring of anguish and pain and suffering. And when the moms and some of the dads would come, they had the deer in the headlight look in their eyes. They were simply terrified, and rightfully so, because at that time and still today, the diagnosis is largely considered the prognosis.
Right.
And by the time the parents left, that deer in the headlight look was gone. They were beaming and they were happy and they were ready to get home to their children, their families, and actually start recovering their children.
There's something that we can actually do, so it's very empowering that way.
It's tremendously empowering because the most crippling concept involved in autism is it's this way now and forevermore. And if you can replace that with your child can get better, your child can heal, there's hope for the future, it actually can, it's a life-changing event and a life-changing time.
Yes. Yes.
Now, part of the reason that we need to marry the legislative side of things with the biomedical side of things is that once parents know that there's real hope and help and things that they can do for their child, they have to be allowed, empowered by the powers that be, the system, to be able to do these things. You know, there are a lot of political forces out there that try to squash things that are helpful interventions for the kids that come from different realms, whether it be codex trying to restrict citizens' access to high-quality, efficacious dietary supplements, or ways that don't let us know which foods are more healthful and safe for our kids, or things that intimidate parents into using efficacious biomedical interventions for their kids under proper medical oversight. And the community also needs in view of all of these naysayers out there who are constantly, sitting there and bombarding the internet with negative talk about parents who try to help their children. The community needs some more positive PR out there about how we love and appreciate our children and are only trying to remediate legitimate underlying physiological issues, which we should substantiate by objective laboratory testing. Any biomedical intervention or significant change to regimen that can affect physiology, do that under proper medical oversight with a professional, a healthcare professional who keeps up to date on the latest research and interventions for autism. Parents who are educated, doing their homework, and trying to help their children love their children. They appreciate their children. They're not trying to change their dear personalities. They're trying to remediate legitimate underlying physiological illnesses, just like someone who received a diagnosis of cancer for their kids would go out and say, hey, what's happening with this? Is it oxidative stress or an immunological problem? Let's go out and take care of that and help make my kid better. Yeah. We all want our kids to be the best that they can be. Even parents of neurotypical kids want to send them to Harvard, want to have them do baseball and piano lessons. It doesn't mean they don't love their kids. It means that they love them and they want them to be the best that they can be.
Absolutely. Well, the great thing about Autism One is that there's so much information there. In 5 days, you can get a year's worth easily of places to take action and ways to go and ways to help your child. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you both this year in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, it's efficient. Ed doesn't like using the term one-stop shop. He thinks it's kind of schlocky, but think of it in terms of efficiency. Mm-hmm. You go there and you get to hear about adjunct therapies and educational modalities and biomedical research and treatments, and you get to hear from the MDs, the mothers determined, as well as the MDs, medical doctors, and you get this all in one place.
Well, thank you so much for your hard work and what you've been doing over the last 10 years. It's impacted thousands, tens of thousands of families. And I'll let you get back to planning and getting ready for Autism One, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Okay, let me just give the listeners for Thinking Moms Revolution just a couple of things, snippets that we're working on currently, okay. And we'll obviously share them to as many people as possible as soon as we can. We're in the process of inviting Congressman Izza. That is a real possibility. I would encourage people to attend Pat Tierney's presentation who might otherwise not. And also, I would encourage folks to attend Dr. Brian Hooker's presentation. There's going to be some very, very significant information shared with the community. So those are just kind of 3 quick insights into the conference.
Yeah, and if I didn't mention anybody earlier who I should have, I apologize. And we're doing this kind of off the cuff, and also give a shout out to our team, because it's not Ed and me alone doing this. Thank you to our team members, and especially Laura Rowley, who's our Director of Operations. Thank you to Laura, Lisa Roops, on helping on hand too. So thank you to our other team members.
You have an amazing team. Laura is incredible. Lisa's fantastic. Quickly, I know Jacqueline Larita is going to be there this year, and Miss Montana, some sort of bigger name celebrities this year. Overall, though, I think the important thing is, the focus is definitely on the kids and helping them. And I'm so glad that you guys have been able to maintain that focus over the years.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and thanks for thinking out loud with me today. We'll see you in a few weeks at Autism One.